Professor Mehmet Ozalp, gratitude is such a topical matter these days. Is gratitude important?
Well, it's extremely important. I can't talk about it enough. Actually, I was reflecting on this a couple of years ago. Every year I make a spiritual goal. I have goals in my life in 6 different areas. Spirituality is one of them that I want to achieve and improve myself. In 2023, I was thinking, I'm so blessed in life, personally, family-wise, the country that we're living in, Australia, and with so much happening in the world. I thought I was really thankful, but I also felt that I'm not in that state of gratitude. Gratitude wasn't part of my life at a level where it was the dominant feeling in me. Yes, I'm thankful. Every now and then I was thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we normally do, as we normally expected. But I wasn't doing that on a daily basis. So there is this, I was also reflecting on what I consider to be the most beautiful verse in the Quran.
Okay, what is that?
Chapter 4, verse 147. It goes, Ma yaf'alullahu bi'adhabikum in shakartum wa amantum wa kana Allahu shakiran alima. So this is what it means is that it starts with, literally it says, what does Allah have to do by punishing you? It's almost like it's saying Allah does not want to punish you, punish human beings. If you are grateful and you believe. So the gratefulness and the belief are given as 2 criteria, 2 very important. It almost feels like that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks for fundamentally. Our belief in Him, and then what comes with that, or the other beliefs that come with that, and the gratitude that
it kind of assumes, doesn't it, that if you believe that you would have gratitude. Do you read it that way as well?
Not necessarily. Like there's so many believers in this world that are miserable at the moment.
Yeah, but the Quran, what Allah wants us to think that way is what I meant. Maybe not in practice.
Well, it's linked. Like belief is linked to gratitude. I can explain that. Maybe we can discuss that later on. But the difference is that there's a difference between being grateful or thanking someone, being thankful, and even having that momentary gratitude, to being in a state of gratitude.
Right.
So that's what I realized, that I wasn't in that, or just believing in things that Islam proposes doesn't guarantee that you're going to be in that state. We have to practice gratitude. And I decided to do that every day. I said, well, how can I make this a part of me, almost like a habit? Because when
how did you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you do that? You practiced it every day. Was there a particular strategy you took?
Well, yeah, I said to myself, every day I'm going to find 3 things that I'm going to be grateful about. And I'm going to be grateful about consciously. You see, in my view, gratitude is that quality and the feeling of being thankful. And also, it's like you have to have that warm appreciation of kindness and blessing. So there's this warm feeling inside, and then you are thankful about that. It's a feeling. It's a state. And I said, I'm going to enter into that state at least 3 times a day. I'm going to consciously find 3 things that I'm going to be grateful about. And believe me, I find more than 3 every day. And I've been doing that for 2 years now. It made a huge difference in the way I approach life, myself. And, we often don't think about the wonderful blessings that we have. We don't think about the blessing of a very nice day, sunshine, that be living on this planet, like that moment that when you realize, when I'm having coffee in the morning or something, that I feel so grateful that I'm living and I'm in a healthy state. I
Yeah.
find these little things, sometimes even when people just smile at you, you say,
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that I received a smile today. Or, um, or it could be that I had a nice meal. I prepare a nice meal for myself. I sit on the table, I look at it, I say, "Oh, this is wonderful. I'm so grateful about this."
Yeah,
Things like that.
can I add? I mean, I've been applying this as well, actually. It's interesting. And you may be doing this, but I give myself the rule that it can't be the same three things. It has to be something different every day. And when you do that, I find that you have to dig deeper. Because normally when you ask people, what are you grateful for? They'll say, my health, my family, got a roof over my head, which is they are blessings. I'm not denying that. But there are so many more. And so it was good to hear that you've given examples of things like someone smiling at you. It could be a coffee. So it makes you dig deep. I feel deeper, which means that you start to see the magnitude of the number of blessings in your life. Did you find that you were exploring and venturing out into different blessings as well?
Yeah, that's right. It forces you when you say, uh, it, by the way, you don't have to have new things every day, but sometimes
I did.
I do struggle. Sometimes I do struggle, but it's okay. You can just be grateful about the same thing
Same thing.
that you were grateful 3 days ago. That if you have that today, that's fine as well. But I think that initial thing should be, okay, what was the unique thing today? Different or unique thing that I can be grateful about. And you know what that does also? It breaks the monotonous of your day.
Mm.
Sometimes we feel like we're every day we're just doing the same thing over and over again. Our life is boring. We think that way, but it's not. There are so many subtle things that happen to us. We don't realize it, unfortunately, and maybe that's why Allah Subhanahu wa Taala calls human being ungrateful in the Quran.
Mm.
That,
Mm.
that that we don't really truly focus on the blessings, and even when we do, like most Muslims, our thankfulness and gratitude is this: you eat.
Mm.
If you remember to say Bismillah before you start eating, fine, and very good. And most of the time, people don't remember that either. And then at the end, if you remember to say Alhamdulillah, I'm so thankful I just ate.
So
Most
that's the
people,
only thing that
that's
we
the
have
only
to be
thing.
grateful for.
And after a while, that becomes automatic.
Yeah.
It becomes automatic, and so there's no feeling there. It's just a habit. So this is the thing. And there's no consciousness. Like in Islam, everything is judged by the intention, isn't it?
Mm.
So
That's
what's
right.
intention? Intention is directing your consciousness onto something, a purpose or a thing. So if we don't direct our consciousness on something that we are grateful about, then you're not truly grateful about it. So,
Yeah.
so there's no intentionality in that. So very important. So, for example, it could be food. I mean, you just look at it, a delicious, say, steak or something, and you can say, "This animal just died for me, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to so sustain my living and my body with this animal's meat." And sorry to put it like that, but it just makes you grateful and a little bit sorry for the animal as well.
It's a huge sacrifice, isn't it, for
Yeah,
our sustenance?
exactly.
Yeah.
They made a huge sacrifice, so we really need to be thankful for that.
Yeah. No, when you said in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to us as ungrateful, I visualize this child, who's got like, as a lot of children do in first world countries, 20 toys. And they're like, I don't have anything to play with. And you think, what? What do you mean you don't have anything to play with? So it's that kind of like you ungrateful child. But if the child says, "Look, I know I've got 20 toys here. I like them all, but can I please have one more?" It's such a different, tone because they appreciate the toys, but they want one more. And you think it's human nature. It's human nature, child nature. They want another toy, but at least they appreciate what I've purchased them already. So it puts the parent, I think, or the grandparents in a completely different mindset. And I think I remembered Quranic verse that comes into my mind a lot when I think about gratitude, which is, if you thank Allah, He will give you more. So it's such a positive reinforcement where He's, if you thank Him, like a child, if they appreciate what you do for them, you're willing to go above and beyond and do more for them. It's obviously an analogy with limitations, but it's still a very powerful analogy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, in the verse, I said the most beautiful verse in the Quran, chapter 4, verse 147, it finishes with two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Shakir and Alima. Shakir is a name of Allah, that Allah is thankful. Or, I guess not in the way the human beings are, but He responds our thankfulness and gratitude
Appreciates,
with
yeah.
appreciation equally, or even more, And then He's Alim. He knows our appreciation and thankfulness. He knows what He's given us, and also when we are thankful, it's great. One of the things about thankfulness, it's a subtle thing. Like, let me explain. When you eat an apple, you just look at it as 100 calories. If you're counting calories. I just ate. That's a nice meal, and maybe some vitamins and so on. But when you eat an apple, thinking that, and when you're grateful about it, that this was a blessing that was given to you, all of a sudden, apple becomes a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And small things, you mentioned the toys and everything and the gifts. But what makes the gifts valuable? It's an expression of love. You give somebody when you like them, love them, and it forms an emotional connection between the person, receiver, and the giver. So when we look at blessings in our lives through the lens of gratefulness, it automatically, that feeling of gratitude leads to a feeling of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that you feel that you're loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that it's again, that warm, fuzzy feeling engulfs you. And that's so important for well-being in our lives as believers. It's something that only believers can feel. This is why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the situation of a believer is really amazing. Whenever he receives something, he's thankful. Whenever he receives something bad, he has patience. But he's linked belief to that gratitude again.
Yeah. I guess from what you're saying, I hear that, it changes the whole experience. Gratitude changes the whole experience. With the apple, it could be like 100 calories, yay, I'm not going to get fat. Oh, wow, what a blessing, what a sustenance. It's a gift from Allah. But you mentioned that believers experience gratitude, but I guess non-believers can have experienced gratitude too. And that research shows that it's, people with gratitude have less depression, less anxiety. But I guess there's something special when you link the gratitude to the Creator that makes it extra special.
The special part is this.
Part is important, isn't it? Because you see it as a gift. Whereas if you take Allah out of the formula, it's nature, and nature is mindless.
And of course, gratitude is a human thing, and everyone's going to feel it, whether you're a believer or not. Maybe the difference between a believer and disbeliever is that in the case of a believer, you feel also loved by Allah, by your Creator. And that's an amazing feeling. And you don't feel alone. You feel significant in the cosmic scale, that most people think we're nothing. We're just going to live, enjoy ourselves a little bit, or die, and that's it. But you just feel special as a creature living at this time.
That's a good point, I guess, because again, if I use an analogy, if a loved one, say, your child or your parent buys you a gift, you feel loved by that person. Say if they gave you $100 and you think, wow, that's so nice. I know it's probably not a very thoughtful gift, but it's very different if you find $100 on the street. You still think, wow, bonus, I found $100, but it's not the same as someone who, thought about you, went out of their way and gave you that $100. So as you said,
Exactly.
the way it's delivered, who delivers it, the intent behind it, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's right. Maybe give someone a gift today, even if it's small, even if it's just a piece of fruit.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's sunnah to give gifts, and it's probably something we don't do enough of. And 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 it doesn't have to be something big, really. It just needs a little bit of thought. But I remember, I guess, some moments when I received gifts, and even now thinking about it, it makes me feel good. So yeah, we should probably do that.
Yeah.
Everyone give a gift today to someone.
There is a related hadith in Tirmidhi that the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who is not grateful for little things will not be grateful for great ones. It's a beautiful hadith. It illustrates the point that I'm trying to make, or we're trying to make, that we have to build that habit of being grateful for little things. And if you are, you don't miss the big ones. And by nature, big things you can be grateful about in a greater way. But if you haven't built a habit, we'll miss so many of those as well. And then we're going to disappoint people around us. Because the Prophet ﷺ also in another hadith in Abu Dawud said, if you're not, the one who's not thankful to people cannot be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are wonderful teachings. And I just feel like sometimes we just read this hadith and pass on. We say, yeah, wonderful thing the Prophet ﷺ said. But we got to put them in practice. This is my point, or this was my premise, a couple of years ago when I was thinking of this topic. Like, honestly, as Muslims, we don't build the mastery of these spiritual concepts, the fundamental spiritual concepts that Quran and the Prophet ﷺ have focused about on, and it emphasized, repeated not many times. We need to learn them and learn what they are, and then put them in our lives. And honestly, that's how you become a good Muslim. Obviously, in addition to the foundations of our ritual practices like salat, fasting, and so on.
Yeah, I was thinking about that hadith you mentioned. If you're not grateful for small things, you can't be grateful for large. If you take it a bit more sort of another level, you can even say, well, what is a little blessing and what's a big blessing? So sometimes it just makes you just look at blessings differently as well, where something that might seem small because of your perception is actually something grand. You just think, oh, they did this. It reminds me of this a friend. She said, her husband, he did something very nice for her, and she was so appreciative when she was telling me. She said, my husband's so nice. I said, give credit to yourself too, because there are some, wives, their husbands would do this and they would feel entitled. They would think, well, so he should. So being able to see blessings is so important because it can change your perception, your mood. And like you're trying to highlight, we shouldn't take it for granted that we will see blessings when they come our way. I think that's one assumption we make as humans, isn't it?
It does, and it's a matter of degree as well, like smallness and greatness. It's a matter of degree, and that can change depending on how much we feel the need for something. Like, for example, that's why fasting is so important. And actually, fasting in Ramadan is linked to gratitude. One of the verses that often Muslims love to recite about the purpose of fasting. It goes like, fasting has been prescribed to you as it was prescribed to nations before you, so that you may learn righteousness. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. But the next verse, or after that, finishes with لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you learn gratitude. Like, the Quran is linking fasting to learning gratitude. The reason is that, like, let's say you fasted for 12 hours or 16 hours, a glass of water becomes so valuable. If you're thirsty,
the value. Yeah.
a piece of bread becomes so valuable. Whereas on other times you may have this fantastic table full of beautiful dishes and meals, and you don't feel that gratitude as much. You don't, because you don't have the need for it at the time. So when you have the need, it increases the value of things. That's why, in a way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, we are designed to feel all the time this like poverty and weakness. Like in comparison to what we want, as you mentioned with the kids, in comparison to what we want in life, what we wish we would have, there's always a huge gap. So we're always in this state of poverty and weakness. And so that can be only caused by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because as you were talking, I was thinking, you said the feeling the need, but I was thinking, imagine someone, they've got 5 diamond rings, and then a friend buys them a 6 diamond ring. They don't really need it, but they can appreciate it. But what they do need there is to feel loved. And so it's really the meaning behind that gift. So they may not need that particular item, but they need to be loved, and that's what gifts do. They show an expression of love to your brother or sister, your parent, and so forth. So that's
a different need, though. But being like wanting to be loved is also very important. And let's say, if I explain it's a matter of degree, I said, let's say that everybody's showing love to you around you. You're always loved, and then you're just satisfied with that. So if someone gives you an apple, we gave the example, maybe you're not going to even notice that. But for someone there's nobody around them, no one's showing in love, a small gesture, small gift, small smile could make a huge difference, because they feel the need for that.
So we have different needs that need to be fulfilled, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Okay, so I guess sometimes we think, if someone's really struggling, what have they got to be grateful for? What are your thoughts on that? Say someone in the first world compared to someone in the third world. Their circumstances are quite different. Can they both be grateful for the blessings at the same level?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to that. The first one is, can you be grateful for suffering? The things that you're going through, bad things, that you may perceive them to be bad, painful, emotionally painful or physically painful. Can you be grateful about that? I really thought about that hard, and I tried to practice gratitude on those. It just doesn't work. I like, my experience is that the gratitude doesn't work in those cases. You need something else. You need sabr. I think that's why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned sabr and gratitude together. Maybe we could talk about patience on a different sort of a podcast. I think patience is equally important. Life is not all about good things, great things, blessings. There are also moments of suffering and darkness that we need to deal with. And I think patience is really important. And then patience is, by the way, it's not just about all the dark things, suffering things. There are other things. If you want to achieve something, goal, and then you need to be patient. Things like that. So I think patience is also equally, or maybe more important, we could say. I'm not going to say more, but equally important, because the Prophet ﷺ put them at equal pedestal. But it's maybe the patience part we are more practiced. Gratitude requires consciousness a bit more, like that conscious entering into that state, to equalize it in our lives. So in that respect, we need sabr. It's a different thing. But in terms of, can someone living in like a third world, can they have something to be grateful about? Of course. I'm not going to pretend that now, because I'm living in a first world, it would be judgmental for me. But I've seen, videos of African kids dancing. They look so happy, and I'm sure they're enjoying their lives. and like it's relative. Like my daughter the other day, she was saying to me, she was saying, sometimes we don't have certain things I can't buy for my kids and so on. And I said to her, don't worry about that. Like your kids don't care how many toys they've got, what they eat, as long as sometimes they don't want to eat. But what they want is all they care is that a loving home, a mother and a father shows them love, pays them attention, hugs them. That's far more valuable to a kid than what material things that you can give that child. So I guess I'm just saying that, like, no matter where you are, if you have a mother and a father, even if life is difficult, you're getting loved. Uh, there are those blessings. That's a great blessing to have.
Yeah, yeah. That I guess that's along the lines that I was thinking as well. Because often when we think about blessings, unfortunately, we think about them as material blessings. But sometimes, just knowing that your connection with Allah is a blessing as well. Your ability to make dua to Allah is a blessing, just as much as being able to speak to people, being able to speak to Allah is a blessing. And there's a book that I read, The Resilience Project. I can't remember the author's name, but the whole thing of it was that, he's from Australia. He goes to, I believe, India, and he sees that the kids there are happier than the kids in Australia. Like he stayed there as a teacher for months, and I visualize this kid. He explains how the kid points at things and it's like this, like his shoes, they're really old. They're, falling apart. But he's so excited that he's got shoes. He's got this metal pole that he's playing with. The kids here wouldn't even see it as a toy, but he feels so blessed that he's got this toy. So that perspective of, what you have is very important, but also seeing it beyond just the material. But like you said, those relationships, seeing them as blessings and so forth.
Look, I went through poverty when I was a kid, and once someone gave me a brand new pair of shoes, I slept with it for days. I didn't wear it. I just slept with it. I was so happy, and I never forget it now. But I probably forgot about all the shoes that I bought, but I don't forget that pair of shoes. We used to make toys out of wires. We used to make cars and play with it. And we really enjoyed ourselves with these kids. Like nobody bought us toys,
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed my childhood. Like even though it was poverty, I don't think the children today are experiencing childhood like that.
So there's another, I guess, aspect to that, the perspective. But blessings, I guess, it's sometimes too much blessings can be a disadvantage, because when you've got an abundance of something, you can't appreciate it. But that's where I guess we need to consciously remind ourselves that we need to be appreciating blessings. It doesn't necessarily come naturally, as you were saying.
That's right. Abundance leads to wastefulness. Sometimes.
Indeed. All right, that's been a very good discussion. Did you have any last words that you would like to say on the topic before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to say that it's such a blessing to live in this time, to be in a healthy state, to be able to talk like this and share our thoughts and knowledge, or what we believe to be good knowledge. And I really hope that you all practice this 3 days. Like find 3 things that you can be grateful about every day. It will transform your lives. Believe me. Just do it once in the morning, once at noon, once at night, or just at the end of the day. You can just sit down and reflect. What happened to me today? What did I do? What did I have? And then you can just identify those 3 things you can be grateful about. It will transform you. Believe me. And if you're not able to do this, get off your phones. You're not realizing the world around you. I guess you're watching this on your phone right now, but I mean, don't be on it too much. Like, give yourself a chance to think and feel the life around you. We are living in this low state of consciousness. Unfortunately, the internet and the technology, social media has put us in, like, we are constantly receiving information and consuming information rather than thinking about things in our lives. And I personally don't look at my phone and don't watch anything until late at night when when if I have time and just relaxing an hour or so. That's it. And my day is so productive because of that.
Great advice. Thank you.